Hello YouTube, hello America, world. America, Connecticut police, private and interbranch, recorded and confessed faking both sides of stories as victim predators, demonstrably the same way, motivated to such, in this with and as juxtaposed collusion with other natures of crime, interbranch, intermilitary, tied to my area through time, and with prison families. Is also in conjunction with the conversation, for example, tactical degradation of people's fact treatment nature in relationship to the Kaepernick treatments. Across the street from one of the houses associated with the family of Sandy Hook investigators, Newtown investigators. I believe it's called the Thomas Ward Prison, has more than one name. They're like recorded with evidence crime. Rules crimes using Facebook, using online platforms. And then when you have to describe this, you're describing what is on-off platform, on-off campus, interbranch, collusion with mistakes. And then it hurts going to court, being innocent. Even being innocent and getting off hurts. Even especially being forced to jail because you can't, with a high bail, with made-up charges that they know were sequence shifts to hide the recorded rape threats of police and of people from that court admitted and recorded online and in court to me and to others. Before then, in another case when I was also arrested with multiple fake police reports to hide also sequence shifts with rape threats that tied to the campuses that came before that, because people on my street, and there's a guy, Bob Chase. They had me. I have no criminal record. I'm not a criminal. I was put in jail for 6 months in Sandy Hook, in which I believe is whatever. I went to different places, and I was in there with it's not funny, but with a serial killer tied to a body dumping spot that is also connected to the same people that were with connections tied to all kind of federal crime confessions to me from strangers regarding Connecticut crimes. And I knew that the law is that if you don't do that, it's against the law that to do that. I knew they were trying to trap me. So, and my father had a case, when he had a case that he won years ago, tied to people with federal criminals, with pension thefts and stuff like that, who were also in a case that was, then they were co-defendants with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and part of that case in the Ninth Circuit, in the Trade Center context, right before the Trade Center attack. And then there was proven my father had brought his papers and had them time-stamped on time, hand-delivered to Manhattan before the attack, we went to the trial before it. And then came home and then see this on the TV. But it was later proven that in the Ninth Circuit that someone had post-dated those documents to be appeared late before the panel of judges that day in the Ninth Circuit. Someone made it look like it was us too, making fun of the carpet. That wasn't us. With was my father, and that's also tied to the people that were police who were associated with interstate, because this was the other agencies and their family members also associated, also with this field police, recorded and confessed involved with intercity police with the Scalora family. And a Carla Greca I never met in real life on Facebook, Out of nowhere, she approached me and said he was the CIA. After people had forged fake conversations, doctors who are investigators in my town, also doctors and stuff like that, and associated intermilitary, other recorded but uncharged crimes with databases, because they're not letting anyone have one person be able to deal with fact-cheap nature through time. This is maintaining. Internation families demonstrated to me how they're maintaining the roles with our homeland interbranch, interpolice forms, criminal uses of databases with medicine per the phenomena of their ties to the to courts and to fact-cheaping natures that raise victim predators to breach precedents recorded. For example, in relationship to treatments of American history, correlation by James Madison, how he didn't have free speech, how George Washington didn't have it, having to leave slavery in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, even though he had the French general to help him semi-counter extort them here in the North. This right between New York and Boston. Boston and New York still had slavery right up to the end of the Civil War, they say. But it was worse than that, because look at the people stacking. A tactically denatured relationship to nature forced by a breaching method entrenched here since before our founders' births. Kept our book, so it keeps people thinking, training people to believe that it was our founders who did that. Our founders were slaves, roles. Like Harriet Beecher Stowe make the term, and also other natures with the theater, with as only like realized nations, pseudo-sophistication, only sophistication in comparison to nature. In relationship to left, tactically forsaken, criminally re-engineered. Education as a value, as a nature that is this nature's value unto itself, which will only realize perfect value progression. So our temporary value goes, but it's only taken so long because overall nature has no criminal persuasions, especially no legalized criminal persuasions, because that can't discern what stay juxtaposed with it. It doesn't work out like that. You see what I'm saying? And then everyone becomes database knaves. And then database solution stacking because it's through investigators. And then they want to say that they need a right to, but they're offensively the ones messing up. This is also why we need another nature of statutes. Just like with habeas corpus. What good is habeas corpus if you're in a jail wrong? And you know, and they can just take your pen and lie and say that you're that's what they do. They say, oh, they make up words, whatever. There's cameras there, and they know that, but no one's going to check. Especially where and how we have agencies, directors, recorded in collusion with their family members, with kids in my grade growing up. One had a daughter, and more other kids. The other federal criminals in that case, and associated with them, had roles, confessed, recorded, different ways, viable crimes with them, and then placements in classrooms with me, and then database solution stacking tied to that, and their roles with database solution stackings in courts. In every campus I went to, tied to people associated with the policing of it, and with the medicine people of it, of mental health. Everyone gives up. Let them write whatever. They forge names, then they get locked into so many federal crimes. They'd rather be known as child predators than to show how they're hiding live progressions. Because the family members they're hurting at the same time, because they're needing to hurt each age of fact treatment nature. The same people juxtaposed with rackets, incapable. As victim predators, the same way with slavery. With witch trials, and with way worse than witch trials laws against everyone, against our founders. Pierre, the way is clear. Fact treatment fails. its campus lost returns. The Santa Claus will soon be read. Who learns? It's real. The means are clear. All we have to do is be this nature trying to demit this. Mao Zedong. He had to go through all that. They had to retreat. This was a reaction that every modern leader had to have, because there's a knave kings. Only through comparison nature. If you look at wealth in America, stuff like the biggest houses and stuff like that, not businesses, like all, if they have private bonds, it's all tactically denatured. It's all a theater that's all been known. Tactically denatured, the Native American landscape. Before our founders were even born, this was inter-nation trenched here, with slavery for a fact treatment trick to keep everyone, with way worse laws than just witch trials against everyone. Fact treatment nature laws about what you could say. That was more important. They were more against that than anything. What you could say, and zoning laws, what they were setting up, which was the pathology that unfolded as cities throughout the world, to keep states and areas in collusion with a fact treatment nature, racket interscience, inter everything then, pseudo sophistication nature. Everyone blaming on our nature as opinion natures. That to the defense of that, towards jobs, it leads not one person allowed correlations, protraction. It leads offensive live progression, cover up natures and styles needed as tools and maintained as tools. Just, that's what, multi-front correlation. So we have breached precedents in relationship to Hartford's impositions. We have concentrated cultural strip of Italian. They had, that's like bringing down now. It's like like how they set it up to unfold. From way back when they had in still they have Harriet Beecher Stowe House in the Mark Twain House right there. Right next to Trinity College, they had the crow's nest on top of a house. They used to shoot at the slave. Whatever he said, and they shoot him. Maybe they said because it rhymed with trigger. You know what I'm saying? Because why? Because they want to keep the fact treatment nature hurt, tactically degraded. Why? Because then self-defending that. Why? Then everyone's a breaching role tool, perpetually. Not just for then, for now. The law is against everyone like that. On a tactically ulterior from natural value nature system. So everyone made it real. And it stays real because everyone's saying, at least everyone with any means of halfway power, not power. There's power is not in control of itself. I'm talking about anyone who, if you have only what the job says to do, you're not letting free speech, you're not letting the nature be a diffusion to itself. It's a value-nature relationship to itself. That value is a radical of correlation, leveraged before and then as the perfect order to off, in value of all, finite, in conjunction with and as, all active values like as life is identity. Simultaneously, the progressive system, the active system, the active nature, the progressive nature, and the inherent nature, bonded by the fourth nature, which is the identity, which is also a value that is perfect progression, 5. But this is contained in a value nature system agreed to force fake unity with and as the value of each nation, not only as that, as pseudo-sophistication, not only as that, but even kings not understanding what could maintain means to stay fluent through, to motivations to people who wouldn't want to do things, because everyone's lifted to a database crime reaction in relationship to fact treatment and fact treatment nature. And the ancients knew they had a quality of fact treatment nature before sciences, once they were this, and they were also tactically not understanding how. Once they want justifying and defending that, you can't at the same time defend the quality of fact treatment nature that was forced at the point evolution was kept going from. Forgiveness for the rewards part is you have to go back to that. You have to be that nature. It's going to say science sees the little box that cities are, and that's not a free market system. Science knows that the progression nature, with each nation forced, blaming this on other and on others, the cause to it, with an S cultures and all kinds of things like that set up as fact treatment nature engineering into science against the human fact treatment nature. Yeah, it's clear. So anyways, there's a cousin of a person that lives near me. Reportedly his cousin. I've seen his face from distances a couple times. Associated. Like, people used to do mean things to me, and I forget about it. Because I just, I never see them usually. And I'll forget about it anyway, because people are good people. And it's like, especially like, you grow up around so many people, even if you don't, you like them. Like, you care about people. But there's a crime method that was and still is keeping people recorded, keeping people incapable of not describing actual sequence and actual confessions and demonstrations of how people actually get to know each other through a criminal manipulations, database illusion stacking crime methods that are kept on off-campus reactions in relationship to Sandy Hook corruption recorded. But there's nowhere to report it because of the level of intermilitary corruption, with medical corruption, with doctors, internation, shared here, ill. With Puerto Rico, shared here, ill. With evidence crime rules crime rules, with agencies, with federal criminals known, proven, and various natures of them all juxtaposed. And because it goes with it's crime stacking that's keeping everyone like asking people to sue, to pick rights to sue for when each constitutional value is not being let. You know what I'm saying? This brings war. This doesn't even let the right to also associated with body dumpings, killing spots, wrecking people's lives. Interbranch, juxtaposed with known and with unrealized, and with overt, and with juxtaposed, criminal enterprises, criminal insidiousness nature. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a principal. So this is my house. It will be like this. It will be a couple houses over. Like this is, it'd be the reversed. But it'd be on this side. So this Phil Colello is his name. A guy named Bob Chase. When they had me in the Plymouth, the guy wouldn't even let me read a thing. I don't know, because they wouldn't let me have what do you call it? When I was in the jail, when I was in the Sandy Hook. But I don't know, I think it's Thomas Ward Prison. Also at Thomas Ward, before that too, was recorded with doctors from that place, recorded with crimes on with kids, they're facilitating because of their relationships in courts criminally, and with their actors and uses of the hallways as victim predators. Only way they could be that nature through such time. So, and then they're using that as an offensive means because they're trying to pretend that they care about jobs and value. But that's not, because if they cared about value, they wouldn't be holding rackets through they're holding what's staying internation, inter-industry, criminal internation persuasions of human fact treatment nature, of science. Real science looks at that and says we have to supplement more than bricks. Real science knows that we could just agree to lock down what we are and fix tactically denatured relationship to nature. Especially in monetize these kind of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need peace. Make a game out of it. Where? You know what I'm saying? You can't have militaries thinking they don't have the sanctions. They ain't hurt. They don't know how, because they never heard the nature of the law, even the law. They heard just physical delusions juxtaposed with it per their trained roles, relying on investigators forging, pretending things are recorded or not, sequence shifting in the Ninth Circuit in the Trade Center context, not letting Connecticut crimes and people associated with that, and investigators to branch and their family members with 6 things with child predators reported. They made up confessions to me, different people. They're not letting them report because they know that they have detectives and FBI people in my area associated with their family members and with other agencies recorded and confessed, attached me to fake conversations about agencies and with themselves, with this Leahy family, men and women, with the Lombardo family, also both with ties to this Phil Colello, that Bob Chase. When I was in the thing, he was supposed to show me the police report. I wasn't allowed to read the police report. I had spent 6 months in jail. He also is associated with other men and women, associated with the rest of. There's another child predator. Then later they said, they reported that a guy who made confessions tied to this, about more child predators with the school. They found one with the school. I'm not going to say anything because they in other words, they made confessions to me after the police were already online, before I called the school, before I wrote on their Facebook page, because they were online rape threats, offensively, having nothing to do with me, to sequence shift, because they know when you have high police forms, there's no one to do anything to them, so they direct with nothing, what everyone's going to hide, and they're going to lie deeper. And they were only raised as pseudo-sophistication, predatory litigation nature, by internation areas maintained, inter-science, inter-everything, database, illusion stacking, native fact treatment nature, same way motivated to it as with slavery, which everyone was a slave. And our founders need us to explain how George Washington, how James Madison's plan could only semi-extort what had slavery entrenched in the North, internation, forcing England to be the face and play it all tactically ulterior from actual value nature system, or don't. Don't be. That's what was only realized. Everyone was a slave, even kings. You see now, but no one understands. The only way we can heal it is what the religions are about. The Alpha and Omega is about alphabet. It's about the campus Marcius that was criminally re-engineered. That means the human fact sheet in nature was criminally re-engineered before the modern religions. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to preserve. You see what I'm saying? So now this Phil Colello also recorded and confessed involved with database illusion stacking because they knew that he was on paper. It looks like I had something to do. I never had anything to do. Not one time. There was 2 or 3 times they made an illusion. Not 2 times, because I never had anything to do with them. I never, for a second, So they make exceptions like that, but on paper, they pretended other, and they put me in jail with this to hide confessions about untimely deaths, and about this as the same people. There's a group of people, a little bit younger than me, that hung around with this Phil Colello's cousin, lives over here, Ray Colello. His father's old name is Ray Colello. I don't know what his grandfather's name is. Also, he lives up the street. He communicates up the street with a woman across the street from an O'Brien family. And there's like, everyone's a victim predator role, but predator, because no one's capable of being honest now, because everyone was made to do live confessions to me when they were growing up in relationship to this. Ray Colello moved in, when I was in 4th grade, into a house that used to be reportedly the what is it called? The girlfriend of the former police chief. She had a dog that used to come through the flap, almost try to kill my sister. Really crazy dog. Other violence like that in the area tied to the family, extended family and immediate family. A grandfather who died, sold his house. Also involved with the detectives involved with crimes with the kids. But then it's juxtaposed with other natures of crimes, where they're hurting the family members too, even mothers. One mother was reportedly went into a house. I don't know if the whole thing was staged, because they're also had, since I was a kid, they recorded and confessed interagency, interpolice form, interbranch people with crimes with recording things, and with the same people here tied everywhere, every campus I went, because in other words, this guy came in 4th grade. Then the O'Briens, they have Andy and he's a Rocky Hill police officer. Other Rocky Hill police officers are recorded and confessed involved with federal crimes and with evidences and with rules crimes and with type to extortion acts and like mail frauds and things like that. They attached me to fake conversations about the case in 9/11, about my father's cases. They attached me to because people made confessions since 2000 about CT police on and off campus, with also on and off campus professors and people associated that work with the campuses, connected between the campuses with on and off campus brackets, with private police and then intercity police, and they have positions with. And they are also tied to doctors that are involved with the crimes with the kids and with the databases, illusion stacking, and with drugs formally, and with gangs drugs. And then they're mixed with the undercover, using that for fact-checking market, pretend they have the right to do that. They have no right to threaten rape. They have no right to be drug dealing through kids for evidence crime roles, where they're stacking databases. They're using those kids to keep groups as evidence crime roles. They're making these kids. You don't want to make them grow up too fast. You know what I'm saying? The ones who grow up too fast, they're being used by would never have maturity, but as negative value nature progression tool role, as criminal insidiousness nature. This is about religion. The religion is about a nature of a quality of fact treatment nature, predicate value discernment, which is predicate act value discernment, which is negative relationship to itself as the identity of positive, as identity. Space nature is in demonstration of its identity, and it will only the phenomena of temporary space nature. So then there's also the house across the street from Ray Colello that also demonstrated or involved with see, they're speaking through different people, making confessions. They have girls on pond side too, and little boys that they raised to young men and women who are hurt, who become evidence crime roles. Also, these are people with Trinity College. There's a Dean Alfred, and there's other deans. The Dean Judge with his family members, also with doctors, also